Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning as well. My name is Aurélien Lorange, and I am for the Quarks Foundation, the organizer of this match, and host as well. This is one of the eights of finals. This is the second eights of finals, actually. We had one just earlier today, and this is the second one of the day. Between two universities who qualified from the group phase, we have the University of Bologna and the University of the West Indies. So one in Italy and one in Trinidad and Tobago. So greetings to all of you and welcome for this match. We have as well the presence of one of the three judges. This is Dr. Ilya Rokoshny, who is based in Canada, in Manitoba, in Winnipeg, and he will be watching the match, and he will be assessing the match as well, along two other judges. One who is in Nepal, will be watching the match during the next hours, and one in the Netherlands within Tilburg University. So today we'll have then, two teams will be debating on a topic they received 7 days ago, and this match will, I would say, offer the possibility to the winner to compete in the quarterfinals, which will be in 2 weeks. So before, of course, jumping into the match, I will give the floor to the protagonist of this match for them to introduce themselves, and of course, after that, we'll start the allocation of the positions for this match. So first of all, I would like to start with Miss Maria Gabriele Paiva Barbosa in Bologna.
Hello everyone, my name is Maria Gabriele Paiva Barbosa. I'm originally from Brazil. I'm a graduate in European Law by Maastricht University, and I'm currently a Legal Studies Master's degree candidate at the University of Bologna. Very excited for this match with you all today.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Now, Mrs. Suana Sukdeo at the University of West Indies.
Good day all. My name is Sona Sukdeo. I'm currently a Year 3 student at the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus. I am quite excited to make it to the 1-8 finals and being participating alongside University of Bologna. I do wish you good luck in today's debate.
Thank you very much. We welcome as well Mr. Luis Felipe Alvarez Vega from the University of Bologna. Welcome.
Hello everyone, my name is Felipe. I'm an LLM student from the University of Bologna, and I have a bachelor's in law from the University of Costa Rica. And I'm very excited for this match, and I wish the other team good luck as well. So yes, very excited.
Thank you and welcome. I welcome as well Mr. Marvin Williams at the University of the West Indies. Welcome.
Thank you once again. It's a pleasure to be here participating at this stage of the tournament. I do look forward to debating this well-prepared, I would assume, team. They look very confident, and I am eager to go up against them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome. We have as well in Italy Mrs. Emma Berto. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm from France, and I'm a first legal master in Bologna. I'm very excited for this match, very excited to meet the other team, and best of luck.
Thank you and welcome. We have as well at the University of the West Indies Miss Leana Luchman.
Hi, good day all. Thank you so much for your warm welcome. I look forward to this match. All the best to our friends on the Italy side, and looking forward to a great debate.
Thank you very much. We have the presence as well of the coach, so we'll give the floor first to Miss Yeva Malikaite in Bologna.
Hello everyone, I'm Yeva. I'm from Lithuania. Very nice to meet you all. I'm also a master's student here in Bologna, and I wish a lot of luck to both of the teams.
Thank you very much. On the side of the University of the West Indies, we have the presence of Dr. Timothy Afonso. Welcome.
Afternoon everyone. I wish both teams all the best, and I really hope that you all have an enjoyable experience as you all advance in the competition. Let's hope so. All the best, you all. Bye.
Thank you very much. I want to emphasize as well that indeed there is a second coach as well, which is not in the room at this moment at the University of West Indies, who is Dr. Alicia Elias Roberts. We have as well the presence of one of the three judges, so Dr. Ilya Koshny, sorry again. So you can introduce yourself as well.
Hi everyone, I'm anticipating your debate. I'm so excited to see you all, and it's nice to meet you, and I wish you best of luck in this debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, so the two other judges will be watching the match during the next hours. They receive the link. So one judge from the Netherlands, from Tilburg University, another judge from Nepal. So the two teams receive the topic that they were researching on, and they don't know yet the position which one they will get during the match is international regulation should govern the transfer and possession of cultural objects, emphasizing the need for cultural property restitution, particularly for archaeological and historical heritage of nations. So now I will share my screen, because the teams, they don't know which position they will have, but they will know in a few seconds. So I share the screen with the wheel, and you will see the names, of course, of the two universities. So now you should see that you could be in favor or against for the University of Bologna or for the University of the West Indies. So I click in the center, and we'll know which position each team will defend during this match. So this is the University of the West Indies will defend the position against, and as a consequence that will be the University of Bologna will defend the position in favor of the motion and will be starting as well the match. So concretely it means that the University of Bologna will start the match and will defend the position that international regulation should govern the transfer and possession of cultural objects, emphasizing the need for cultural property restitution, particularly for the archaeological and historical heritage of nations. On the other side, the University of the West Indies will defend the position that international regulation should not govern the transfer of possession of cultural objects, emphasizing the need for cultural property restitution, particularly for archaeological and historical heritage of nations. So now I will start the countdown for 5 minutes. So you have 5 minutes to start to review, of course, your notes, and we start afterwards with the introduction by the University of Bologna. Okay, so we'll start the match. So I will ask the team from Bologna to open the camera, indeed. And we'll start with the introduction by the University of Bologna. You have 4 minutes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed panel, and dear opposition. On behalf of the University of Bologna, we are proud to argue in favor of the proposition international regulations should govern the transfer and possession of cultural objects. Cultural property has been conceptualized in Article 1 of the 1954 Hague Convention for the Protection of Cultural Property in the Event of Armed Conflict, as movable or immovable property of great importance to the cultural heritage of every people. UNESCO refers to cultural objects as cultural heritage, shifting away from the concept of traditional property to implying conservation and intergenerational transfer. Historical heritage is the thread between a nation's past, present, and future, and colonial history is marked by instances where cultural property was taken from colonized states by imperialist ones as retaliation or power display. European states particularly hold an exorbitant number of African objects, total of 180,000 alone in the Belgian Royal Museum for Central Africa. Currently, there are two main international treaties devoted to cultural property restitution: the UNESCO Convention of 1970 and the UNIDROIT Convention of 1995. The latter explicitly provides in Article 3, Paragraph 1, the possessor of a cultural object which has been stolen shall return it. However, these conventions are not endowed with retroactive effect, and only affect objects after their entry into force, as in accordance with Article 28 VCLT. Therefore, there is no international legal obligation to return colonial cultural objects. As a consequence, Mexico's claim over the ancient Aztec headdress, Greece's claim over the Parthenon marbles, and Egypt's efforts over the bust of Queen Nefertiti have been met with indifference or refusal. The UN Security Council has recently adopted several resolutions emphasizing the importance of returning cultural objects to protect cultural heritage and its necessity for peace and security. Therefore, international regulation on the transfer and possession of cultural objects is a necessity. Our claim is based on the following arguments. Firstly, effectiveness. International regulation is the most effective means to provide restitution, especially when governments and museums choose to ignore claims. The only way to hold sovereign states accountable to a common set of norms, breach and restitution mechanisms is through harmonizing regulatory efforts. A treaty may provide for a bespoke, expert, binding forum via its own dispute resolution mechanism and thus directly hold states accountable to agreed obligations. Secondly, we have uniformity. Cultural property governance requires a uniform and standardized approach in order to ensure consistency and fairness in the treatment of cultural objects. And why is this important? Nigeria's claim to the Knox statuettes based on the 1970 UNESCO Convention was rejected by the French courts, simply because the convention, which was ratified, was not directly applicable, as no implementing national legislation had been enacted. This is why a binding international instrument is favored and reflected in the 1995 UNIDROIT Convention, which is a self-executing instrument which can be relied directly by individuals. Lastly, international regulation is most appropriate for fundamental rights protection, including human dignity, the right to self-determination, and cultural rights, recognized in the ICCPR and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Quoting Director General of the Security Council, defending cultural heritage is more than a cultural issue, it is a security imperative, inseparable from that of defending human rights. To ground this, we have laid emphasis on the effectiveness, uniformity, and protection of human rights, and we argue in favor of the proposition today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now I give the floor to the University of the West Indies. So for your introduction, you have 4 minutes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Esteemed judges, organizers, and debating friends, the issue of international regulations governing the transfer and possession of cultural objects is a complex one, and a careful analysis of the legal and ethical implications is needed before any action is taken. While the importance of preserving cultural heritage is recognized in UNESCO, UNIDROIT, and even the International Council of Museums, practical challenges persist. During our submission, we will argue, 1. The difficulty of sometimes identifying the rightful owner of artifacts. 2. The impact on state sovereignty. And 3. Whether these laws will have retroactive effects. International law cannot regulate something which is not clear-cut. The difficulty begins with cases such as the infamous Elgin marbles. The British Museum claims to have legal ownership of these cultural artifacts, having been in their possession for over 200 years. They claim it is now part of their culture. But Greece begs to differ, inciting that the sculptures were illegally removed and should be returned. And the matter is further complicated by the fact that Greece was once part of the Athenian Empire, which had long disappeared, making it difficult to determine who should rightfully own these cultural treasures. It's a classic case of the thorny issue of identifying the rightful owner of cultural objects when empires and civilizations split or disappeared. Another challenge is the infringement on sovereignty of nations. Countries must have the right to decide what cultural objects they consider to be part of their heritage and what actions they want to take to preserve it. The notion of state sovereignty is enshrined in international law. The international law regulations, knowing this, cannot ignore it. The international laws become, become overly restrictive, countries may hesitate to sign on to them. Finally, there's an issue of retroactivity, which could dampen the effect of international laws. International law is not retroactive, meaning it cannot be applied, even for events that occurred before its creation. This limitation makes it challenging to address past wrongs. The inability to apply international law retroactively could also mean that countries are not held accountable for their past actions. Ultimately, while the preservation of cultural heritage is important, international regulation is not the solution. The complexities of identifying the rightful owner of cultural objects, as well as concerns about sovereignty and the limitations of international laws, makes it clear that this approach is not feasible. Cultural property restitution is a deeply emotional issue that requires a nuanced approach, one that cannot be resolved through legal frameworks alone. We must remember that cultural heritage is not a commodity to be bought and sold, but a reflection of our shared community. It is a testament to the creativity, ingenuity, and resilience of our ancestors. I thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we'll move to the rebuttals. So for the first round of rebuttal, I would like to give the floor to the University of Bologna. You have 2 minutes.
Hello, yes, just before starting, I wanted to check that I am audible and visible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, Council, from the team of West Indies for your proposition. We appreciate the arguments, but we must disagree. There is basis for international regulation on this topic. As an example, we can look at the ICCPR, which is the most well-known instrument on human rights. And in this instrument, we see Article 1.1 talking about self-determination, 1.3 talking about the promotion of the realization of self-determination, and Article 5 relating to the obligation of respecting rights that one state has towards another. From this norm, we can derive that there is a duty to fulfilling the right of self-determination of other states, and not returning artifacts that have a cultural significance to other states would be going against this right of self-determination. Not regulating the return and restitution of artifacts signifies a continuation of a disrespect of principles central to human rights, like human dignity, equality, respect, and independence. That would mean cherry picking what human rights principles we like based on what benefits our country, and this undermines the whole system of human rights. Why should we protect artifacts that were stolen during World War II and not articles that were stolen during the colonial time. The message that this sends is deeply Eurocentric and Western-centric. Additionally, regulating the reposition of artifacts has the side effect of combating organized crime, since the trade of artifacts is the third most biggest way in which organized crime is currently done internationally. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. As well, for the first rebuttal, I will give the floor to the University of the West Indies. You have 2 minutes.
Although I do acknowledge my learned friend's point of view, they fail to highlight that the challenge of determining the original owners of cultural objects poses significant difficulties that may outweigh the benefits of regulating their transfer and possession. In many cases, the identity of the original owner of a cultural object is unknown or impossible to establish due to the long history of transfers and the absence of clear records and documentation. As a result, the application of international regulations governing the transfer and possession of cultural objects may be arbitrary or unfair, leading to legal disputes, cultural conflicts, or even social unrest. One example of this difficulty is found within the Benin bronzes case, where cultural objects were taken from what is now known as Nigeria by British forces during the punitive expedition in 1897. These metal plaques and sculptures were originally used to decorate the royal palace, that is, the Kingdom of Benin, but were looted and sold to the European museums and private collectors. Despite repeated calls for their return, these artifacts remain outside of Nigeria and their rightful ownership remains a matter of contention. Given the complexity and sensitivity of this issue, a nuanced approach is necessary between states. This approach should involve a cooperative effort between the governments of countries of origin and those in possession of the objects to establish a framework for the transfer and possession of cultural objects. This framework should preserve the cultural and historical significance of the objects. By taking a collaborative effort, we can address the challenges inherent in determining the original ownership of cultural objects and establish a more equitable system for their transfer and possession. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we move to the second rebuttal. I give the floor to the University of Bologna. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. To reply to the difficulties proposed by the University of West Indies, first we can say that yes, there is the issue of the difficulty of identifying the origin of an artifact, but in many cases it is not an issue of identifying the origin of an artifact. Simply, it's the issue of a state refusing to give back this artifact, like the case mentioned from the Benin bronzes, in which internationally it's recognized that these are Nigerian artifacts. The team also proposed a collaborative approach. Yes, we definitely agree with this, but a collaborative approach is best organized by international regulation so that we can streamline and harmonize the way that the cooperation is done. Additionally to the issue of identifying the artifacts, there exists the International Committee on Return and Restitution of the UNESCO. This is a forum in which countries, even if they're not signatories to the treaties, can go to resolve disputes regarding the origin of artifacts. So this could be a tool that could be leveraged in utilizing international legislation. And finally, regarding the impact on sovereignty, what cultural objects they consider should be considered part of heritage, right? What if there is a conflict, or if an item is considered to be a part of two communities? Should we give a precedence to the original owner of this artifact, or should we completely forget about them? And doesn't that seem as an injustice to the other team to completely forget the origin of an artifact and just keep it in the hands of the country that currently holds it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, we will give the floor as well for second rebuttal to the University of the West Indies. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. Am I being heard?
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to thank my opponents on the side of Italy for their argument. However, I must point out a major limitation in their argument is the idea of restitution and the practical ability to return these objects. Enforcement of international law has been a widespread issue. In particular, in the case of archaeological returns, it can be difficult between countries to decide what needs to be returned. If we cannot decide what archaeological objects must be returned, we do not know how the law can stand, and whether this can be regulated by international law is a question not for international law makers, but rather for individual countries who have specific their own interest in these objects. For instance, we have spoken about the UNESCO Convention, the 1970 Convention, at length, and the major protocols between 1954 and 1999 provide guidelines for the prevention and prohibition of the illicit trafficking of cultural objects. However, there have been instances where states have not ratified these conventions or have not taken necessary measures, even if they have signed on to the convention, to implement their obligations. Moreover, even when international law is enforced, it may not necessarily lead to cultural property restitution, and that is the importance of the prompt, the literal return of these objects. For instance, in the cases that we mentioned earlier, such as the Parthenon marbles, even in the cases which our friends have mentioned, such as the Mexican headdress, these cultural objects have not been returned even with the institution of the UNESCO 1970 Convention. What happens is that whilst these countries seek to restore the items, the international law has not been enough. There needs to be national cooperation between countries rather than an international law which is too broad to capture the nuances of each of these objects. To quote Audrey Azoulay, the Director General of UNESCO, the 1970 Convention in particular is too broad and has come to not be of a practical value at all. Thus, we stand negative against the prompt that cultural objects cannot be retained through international protocols. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So now we move to the conclusions. So we start first with the conclusion by the University of Bologna. You have 2 minutes.
Now?
Yes, you may start, yeah. No, we don't hear you at this moment. His microphone is off, I think. Yeah, now you may speak. No?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now, yes.
Okay, I'm very sorry for the inconvenience. So thank you everyone for your submission. So the opposing team argued that international regulation should not govern the transfer and possession of cultural goods. However, we have explained that there is a legal basis under international law with the ICCPR, and that we agree that a collaborative approach is a keystone here to protect cultural heritage, but in fact, this should be done under the umbrella of international law. The University of Bologna stands by the position that international regulation should be governing in this instance. We have put emphasis on the efficiency and the university provided by such legal framework. We also try to argue on the moral and ethic needs to have protection not only on agreement case by case basis, but that we need this protection on an international level because the thing is that we need to keep creating trends at the international level to push states to change the legislation and to have an approach that would take more into account the human rights and the historical and cultural value of goods. And in this way, will not only protect market state, but also the source states. Because cultural heritage is one of the basic elements of one's civilization. And source states are entitled to have their belongings back. And there is indeed the convention, but the scope is limited. It's not retroactive. It doesn't take into account civil protection. So we should enforce new legal mechanism. and as it decrees of market states that have to apply internal regulation is a must-have here, not only to protect the source states, but also to preserve cultural goods. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we give the floor as well to the University of the West Indies for your conclusion. You have 2 minutes as well.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. To repeat the point made in my introduction, this issue of international regulations to govern the transfer and possession of cultural objects is a complex one, and one that requires a nuanced and sensitive approach. We on this side agree that the preservation of cultural heritage is important. International regulations, however, is not the answer. The difficulties in identifying the rightful owners of cultural objects, concerns about sovereignty, and the limitations of international law make it clear that a collaborative approach is necessary. It is important to acknowledge that the process of determining the rightful owner of cultural objects is often difficult and complex. In many cases, the original owners are unknown, or the objects have been transferred so much times throughout its history, making it challenging to establish a clear chain of ownership. Therefore, the application of international regulations governing the transfer and possession of cultural objects may lead to legal disputes, cultural conflicts, and even social unrest. Moreover, it is important to recognize the sovereignty of nations and the right of countries to determine what cultural objects they consider part of their heritage and what actions they want to take to preserve it. The notion of state sovereignty is enshrined in international law, and international law regulations cannot ignore it. Overly restrictive laws, as I said before, may lead to countries not signing on to them, creating even more problems. Finally, it is essential to recognize the limitations of international law. In the face of these challenges, a collaborative and nuanced approach is necessary. It is important to involve the respective governments of countries laying claim to these possessions. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we are done with this match. We heard the 2 conclusions for the teams, and from now, of course, they can brief, and we'll be able to hear about their impressions, how they prepared as well the match, and of course we'll hear as well what one of the judges already thought about this match as well. So I would like to start first of all in hearing about how it got prepared, what was the impression on the performance as well, what they thought about the topic, if it's connected to their studies, for example. Mr. Luis Felipe Alvarez Vega in Bologna, starting with you.
Okay, hello everyone. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, so it's a really interesting topic for me, since I'm from Costa Rica and I'm Latin American. Like, it's a really sensitive topic. I feel like for a lot of Latin American countries who have suffered from looting during the colonial times. So it was really interesting to study this. I did not know what the framework was for the existing laws. And also making arguments for the con side was a little more difficult because I felt strongly about the pro side. But I mean, it ended up being really interesting. And I think the other team for their performance, it was really interesting and very insightful.
Thank you very much. Mr. Williams, who just concluded as well, what did you think about this match? How did you prepare the match? Have you seen that in your studies, for example?
Yeah, so preparation for this match was very, it was tedious. It is a topic that brought about a lot of emotions with, for my colleagues on the other side. I think there's a lot of conversation to be had on an international level concerning this topic, and I'm glad we had the opportunity here to just present some arguments that maybe, so I thank you.
Many thanks, thank you very much. Mademoiselle Paiva Barbosa in Bologna, what did you think about this topic? Did you study this already before this match, I mean?
Well, first of all, thank you to the team of the University of the West Indies. You were all very prepared and you posed very solid arguments. It was a very interesting debate and I really enjoyed it. I have not yet touched upon this topic within my studies, cultural restitution, but I really love to research about it and yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Many thanks. On the side of the West Indies, we have as well Miss Sugdeo. What did you think about this topic? How did you prepare it as well?
It was quite intense preparation that took place between my colleagues and I. A lot of discussions we had, very emotionally strong points as well. A lot of us had different perspectives when it came to the pros and the cons that surrounded the proposition. So after discussion, we finally came to our arguments and we were quite strong-minded on the opinions that we all shared. So we came, after coming to a similar conclusion, we prepared our arguments for today. And it was very interesting to hear the other side as well and their arguments. I wish you good luck for the rest of the competition.
Thank you very much. And now, Miss Luchman at the University of the West Indies, what did you think about the topic? And as well, if you already studied that before?
Sure, so this was definitely one of the more interesting topics that we've come across. I had a really good time researching it. I think we all came together. We had, as Suwana was saying, we had a lot of opinions on it. It's definitely a live issue. It's currently in the news all the time. It's something that evokes a lot of emotion, a lot of discussion. And it was wonderful to see how our friends from Italy targeted the topic, and I think you all had wonderful arguments. It was really lovely hearing how both of us, we to some extent perhaps think that it's always going to be one way, and then we hear an argument that we perhaps didn't come across in our own research. So wonderful job done by you all, and I want to thank the Corax Foundation for giving us this opportunity. It was a really good team bonding experience, and it was very enjoyable to go through. So thank you all once again.
Thank you very much. In Bologna, Miss Emma Berto, what do you think about this match as well?
Hello. So this match was really nice. I really enjoyed all the arguments and debate, except for my little audio connection. It was, I think, my favorite game so far. And as for the topic, it happened that last week I was attending seminar, brief seminar on protection of cultural heritage and stolen artifacts. And I never had this education before in France, so everything aligned perfectly. And I hope I was able to have my teammates with those newly acquired knowledge. But it was definitely really interesting, and I'm happy I got to learn more about that.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor as well to the coach, because they are in the room as well. Dr. Afonso, what do you think about this match, the performance of the teams?
Thank you very much. I mean, I've seen a few of the debates, and I think this is really a very strong debate. I have to commend the team from Bologna. I think you were solid on law, and for every argument we had, you all just fought right back, which is what I think a proper debate should look like. So I'd like to congratulate you all and the organizers for what I think is a really very productive and useful exercise. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Miss Malikaite in Bologna, what do you think about the performance of the teams?
I think it was a very interesting match, and both teams were very well prepared. It was very interesting to watch it. I think both teams were also super reactive to what the other team is saying, so that was very good. And yes, I really hope the both teams are going to have a lot of luck in the rest of the competition. Thank
you very much. So, of course, what will happen after this match is obviously, first of all, I want to give the floor to one of the judges, and after we'll talk about the judge, logically, obviously. So, Dr. Rokoshny, what do you think about the match?
Dr. Ilya Roskoshny. I really enjoy your match. Thank you very much for your excellent performance, and thank you for this opportunity to watch your debate. And I believe that it merits an excellent mark. I would like to commend your work and also your coaches, but your performance was wonderful. And once again, it's nice to meet you and looking forward to see you in next stages of this competition. The best of luck in next year match.
Thank you, Dr. Roshkoshny. Sorry, again. I'm sorry to destroy the name every time. So many.
It's really difficult.
No, yes, it's just it's the end of the day as well here, unfortunately. But yes, many thanks to the teams. So before closing, of course, with the last remarks, yes, you will receive, of course, the evaluations from Dr. Roshkoshny and as well from the two other judges during the next 2 days. That will give you the scores and, of course, the result of this match, and the team will move to the quarterfinals, which will take place in 2 weeks from now. As you can imagine as well, there are other matches happening this week. So there was one a bit earlier. And the winner of this match, so the match between Bologna and the University of the West Indies, will be against the winner of the team from Western Ontario, who is the winner of last year, I mean the champion of last year's edition, and the University of the South Pacific. They have their match in a few days from now. So many thanks to everybody. But before you leave, of course, we have the traditional chat concerning the connections possibly there will be between the two countries, between the two universities. So, Mr. Luis Felipe Alvarez Vega, have you been in the Caribbean Islands?
No, I haven't, but in Costa Rica, we, on the Atlantic side, we have a lot of Caribbean influence, and I love Caribbean food and like the culture itself. I mean, but I only know what I know from my country.
Okay, very good. Mr. Williams, have you been in Italy, or do you have any friends in Italy eventually?
Actually, I don't. After today, I could probably say I do. However, it's great meeting some of these folks way far from where I'm from. I thank you again for this opportunity.
Yes, of course, it's an opportunity to keep contact between the two universities and the two groups of students, of course. Ms. Barbosa, have you been in the Caribbean Islands eventually?
Not actually. I've never been, apart from the fact that it's relatively close to Brazil. I have never been, unfortunately, but I would love to visit one day. And like Felipe, I appreciate the food, so it's a great start.
Yes, indeed. On the side of Miss Sugdeo, do you have any contacts in Italy? Have you been in Italy? Are there some Italians maybe in Trinidad and Tobago?
No, I do not have any contacts to Italy, but for sure it's on my bucket list to travel. I really do admire the beautiful country that you are in right now. I do hope to foster the relations with my opposing teammates, and hopefully we could fix that. You guys could visit Trinidad someday.
Yes, of course. There are two places to visit, Italy and Trinidad. That's for sure. On the side of Miss Berto in Bologna, have you been in Caribbean Islands?
So no, I've never been to Trinidad and Tobago, but hopefully one day. And now we know people that can recommend us the best of food that we have to try. And of course, we will come in Italy whenever. And yes.
Okay, many thanks. Miss Luchman, any connection in Italy, or even with the countries represented, in the Italian team, so France or Costa Rica or Brazil?
Well, I cannot say that I have been to Italy. I have some Italian friends who I've met in the States, and they've introduced me to the food, all the wonderful pasta, excellent stuff you all have going on there. I hope to one day be able to actually visit Italy, and after stay, hopefully we all have friends from the School of Bologna. So it has been lovely meeting you all, and I do think we've established a sense of camaraderie between ourselves, so hopefully that can grow into something even more.
Yes, certainly. Totally agree. Miss Malikaite, any friends maybe in Caribbean Islands or?
Hello. No, I've never been, but I would love to visit, and that would be very exciting. And I really hope the opposing team could visit Italy sometime soon, maybe while even we're here. That would be very nice. Yeah.
Okay, many thanks. Dr. Afonso, have you been in Italy?
Yes, I traveled to Rome a few years ago, and I did do my master's with friends from Italy. Unfortunately, I don't get to go as nearly often as I would like to, but at least I've been by your area, your side of the world. You all need to come to our side of the world, and we'll show you what Trinidadian food actually tastes like.
Et voilà. So you are all invited as well in Trinidad. So yes, many thanks, and of course it's an invitation to a connection between the two institutions as well, to even have a real relationship like agreements maybe, or partnership or collaborations, or invitations for conference. So in any case, so I don't know if my colleague can say a few words, because I know that you are in very noisy area at this moment.
I would just love to congratulate the two teams. It was a wonderful match. I had a chance to catch the early beginning through our live stream that we utilized for most of the matches. Really well done on your matches through the group phase, and well done on starting the 8 finals together. No matter the results, it was an honor and a pleasure to see your teams grow with the topics. And really well done today's match.
Many thanks. So 2 last elements to tell, of course, is that this match will be live and will be able to be watched again by everybody interested on the topic, and as well supporting the teams. The final week of this competition will be taking place at the end of May. If the teams would like to come, because they are of course participating to the finals, or just as actually attending the final, or even attending the different visits that we'll organize, you are of course available to reach us. I know that one of the teams who is currently in the room already contacted us, and I replied yesterday. So yes, we are preparing of course a program for the visitors and for the teams and students and coach, and even judge if they are around The Hague or around the end of May. Then we meet in person, concretely. So in any case, many thanks. So we keep in touch, and don't forget that everything you have done in this competition will be in a ranking, because we explained at the networking session that your universities will get points actually based on the performance of this competition, like other moot court and debating competitions existing like this, GSUP, etc. So that will be during the next weeks. So already congratulations for everything you have done, because that helps as well in that ranking, international ranking through the competitions for the universities, for law schools precisely. So many thanks again, and we keep in touch, and see you soon. Many thanks in Trinidad and in Italy. Bye-bye. Bye-bye in
Thank
Canada.
you. Bye-bye.